Hello and welcome to FEC TV's Marriage and Relationship Debate Part 2. Now before we begin, Breed has a little something to say.
Thank you for that, Chris.
That's okay.
Unfortunately, in part 1 of this documentary series, I was completely wrong to say something that I said. I've received a number of calls, phone calls, emails, text messages and Facebook messages, which you can still get me on at fectv.com or visit our Facebook page on. Not to mention the notes on my windscreen, the block through the window. I've received a lot of communication with respect to the fact that I said women do not watch pornography. I would like to state that this is absolutely incorrect. As I've discovered, 66% of women do enjoy pornography. And were I to remove the massive stick from up my arse, I would also enjoy pornography.
Breed, thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Chris.
Before you go any further, Chris, I think I should put an apology out there as well. Breed, I'm sorry for putting that block through your window. It was over the top.
Right, now, marriage. Why get married in the first place? Jay, Breed, why? Come on, tell me
honestly, I'm a girl, yes, but I think that marriage solidifies solid relationships. Solid relationships? I think that when a couple have been together for a certain amount of time, you get sick of, chasing and dating and questioning, and marriage is this one thing that ties down what you've got. It really says, this is what we are.
I'm actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in on that one there. Does it actually tie things down? If it tied things down, then people wouldn't get divorced. Now, first of all, I'll say, I think there's very much a male point of view on marriage and a female point of view on marriage. The female point of view on marriage, in my experience from conversations with friends, girlfriends and the like, is that it's this big public declaration. That's what seems to be really important to women. Men, in terms of getting married, it tends to have to do with children. It tends to have to do with being present as a father and wanting to have a family rather than to make some big public declaration.
But not everyone who gets married wants to have kids and all these things.
Yeah, but then in that case, why get married in the first place? Why have the piece of paper? Why put the ring on the finger?
Because it validates your relationship.
Does it though? Does it really validate your relationship?
You look at your friends around you getting married and you start to wonder, okay, when will my turn be?
Breed, would you say that it validates a relationship in the same way that waving a white flag of surrender validates that, somebody has given up and given in and that the battle is over and that there's nothing to hope for anymore?
People assume that when they get to a certain point in life that they will get married, that they will go on to do these things. And it's something to look forward to, the point where you will actually marry another human being.
It can be something to look forward to, but I mean, do you look forward to the divorce that's at the end of it? And currently, in the Western world, for example, 50% of marriages tend to end in divorce. Now, this is kind of across the board, United States, England, and the Irish figures. It's a little bit more confused just because marriage breakup comes into it as well, which includes something like separation. And people can be separated for the rest of their lives. But there's another interesting aspect to it as well, just from my opinion, my perspective, which is that of those 50% of marriages that actually stick together, just a straw poll that I conducted would say that maybe 20% of those are actually happy marriages, that 30% of them, for one reason or another, aren't that happy. And if you look at it just in just a kind of very earthy kind of statistic, that's a 7-to-1 shot that getting married is going to work. So if you had like €1,000, you wanted to do something with that, would you put €1,000 on a horse at a 7-to-1 shot if it was your only €1,000? I wouldn't. Chris?
That statistic is
frankly,
nonsense.
I wouldn't. That statistic is not nonsense. That statistic, frankly, I disagree with you. That statistic is right. That statistic is right. And the issue here is the fact that, yes, marriage is a great and sacred thing and it's a bond and it drives people together. But the fact of it, the matter is that marriages break down. Whether they get divorced or whether they separate, marriages break down in a vast amount.
Absolutely. And people will get married in a fever.
Let's let Bree jump in here because she's shaking her head.
You can take your figure of 7-to-1. Nobody goes into anything thinking they're going to be that 7-to-1 person. I mean...
But they probably should. They should probably actually say, okay, realistically, there's a 50% shot that I will walk out of this or that, this person will walk out of me, that this will have to end.
And
then out of the other side of it, it doesn't actually mean because the marriage is still together that it's a working marriage, a happy marriage, or will foster happy children.
Why do we actually think these breakups, these separations, these divorces, why do we think they actually happen?
I actually think that, I mean, we've got more stresses in modern society. More couples, more people are losing their jobs, more different things are happening like that in the recession, the economy.
What about
it's easier than ever
cheating?
to cheat on people. It is easier than ever to cheat on people. I mean, Facebook, everyone's still friends with their exes on that. I mean, people can poke people. All these things are going on. You're never going to know what your better half or worser half is up to in their own time because you've got so many different streams.
But in terms of this Facebook
Doesn't that bring in a whole question of trust as well, though? That I would agree with you that it's probably easier than ever before to cheat. Part of the reason for that being that we live in a far freer, more liberal society and also a far more individualistic society. Let's say the social constraints that people internalized and had internalized from their youth up to 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, whatever particular point you want to put on it, they're not there anymore. That's why that happens. And
Do you know
that's why
Cut you off
marriage
right
is
there,
shaken
breathe.
by it as well.
Come on in.
It's the invention of the mobile phones. Since phones have come along, people have found it easier than ever to cheat on their partner, on their better half or worse half or whatever. Since people have had the ability to go out on a Saturday night and call their ex or their friend or fuck buddy or whatever it is at 3 o'clock in the morning and hook up, these things have been easier than ever. Since a guy can now go out, have a few drinks, and bring back that one who gave.
So why not erase these pictures? Why not erase these text messages? Why not erase all of this?
What you're actually saying as well, though, is that people are intrinsically untrustworthy. The problem is that people now have the opportunity, but that they were always going to cheat. It was just a matter of opportunity.
Yeah, they didn't have the opportunity. It wasn't so easy nowadays. Nowadays, I also reckon people's moral standards are lower, and that's maybe something to do. I'm not pro-religion, but it's probably something to do with the fact that we've given up on the 10 Commandments. We don't care about cheating or about right or wrong as much as we used to. We just care about getting the most out of things.
Well, Brie, there's another aspect to it as well, and this relates back to something that I was reading recently, that an American university aggregated different personality tests that were taken over the course of the last 50 years. And what they found is that consistently people are becoming more spontaneous and more extroverted in their behavior, and that actually leads them to, let's say, drink more, take more drugs, and also be more selfish, which part of how that
feeds into the debate.
Absolutely. And the reason they put it down to for that happening is that we've moved from a kind of manufacturing-based economy to a service-based economy, which forces people to be more outgoing, to be more extrovert, and to be more spontaneous.
It's a valid point.
This is part of modernity. There's no way around it. And what it says as well is that marriage is on the way out. Yeah. That there will be more divorces.
Well, hang on a second. Now, if we're saying marriage is on the way out, we're talking about a set traditional marriage, the man and the woman. What I'd like to bring in here is gay marriage, because it's a huge hot topic, and I'd like to bring that in. And the one point that's got me really riled up, frankly, about gay marriage is the idea at the moment that it is radical to be anti-gay marriage. The idea that people are vilified, they're called bigots, they're called homophobes, because they, frankly, just simply believe in the idea that two people, same sex, can't get married. They don't want to get married in a church. Now, I frankly find that disgraceful. I don't like the idea that these people are called that way.
You think it should be socially acceptable that people disagree with the notion of gay marriage?
I think it should be socially acceptable, and I don't think this is a view that is posited in the media at the moment.
In a day and age when Jerry Buttimer and Alan Shatter are for gay marriage, you think people should be entitled to say, stop, no gay marriage?
Absolutely. Because it's their freedom of speech. And
it is their freedom of speech. But Chris, there's another aspect to it as well. Talking about freedom of speech with certain things is way more loaded than it is with others. When you're talking about gay marriage and the gay community in general and gay rights, you're talking about a community that has been subject to violence, oppression and murder.
I'm not disputing the fact.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not disputing the fact,
but it does mean that an extra responsibility has to be put on the media not to do anything that will cause that to happen, not to feed the fire and not to persecute a minority.
Completely agree.
And that means that maybe they have to actually go to the other extreme to a certain extent to make sure that everybody knows this is not acceptable, that any kind of bigotry is not
The
acceptable.
not acceptable is fine, but the fact is that if you have a media that is completely pro one side, it destroys the debate. The fact is, you've got
That's
people.
because your side is nonsense.
It's not nonsense. Is it nonsense then for that fact for UK politicians like David Cameron or the Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg to come out and essentially call people who believe in anti-gay marriage as bigots, or to compare them to persecuted Jews in Nazi Germany? Is that then right for politicians to wade into this debate and say those kind of things?
But in
Is that
Ireland-
not just exactly as bad as those people who are simply saying that marriage is a religious institution in word alone and that their views on religion are anti-gay marriage?
Chris, that would be absolutely right if it was a case that things were that simple, but unfortunately the media and society and just the ordinary man on the street doesn't operate quite that way. What tends to attract the attention is when somebody loud and obnoxious goes out there. Let's say, for example, Lech Kaczynski, the former mayor of Warsaw and president of Poland, a man who described gays as perverts, who banned a gay march in Warsaw. When the march went ahead, he then got riled up at the police force for not breaking it up with force. He went on to say, he then was elected president of Poland, he went on to make a big statement saying that homosexuality taken to its extreme would eliminate humanity.
The thing
Now,
is, though,
this
Jay,
is
that's not
ridiculous,
what I'm
but
saying.
I know that, but it's what people are listening to. And
Yeah.
that's
Jesus
the
does not-
actual problem.
Jesus does not own the word marriage. Jesus has no right to take the trademark of the word marriage. He has no right. It's not copyrighted. Anyone can use it.
So what you would say is that gay marriage is not an issue for the church, it's an issue for the state.
Well, Article 41 of the Constitution says that every citizen shall be deemed and treated equally in
But
the Irish law.
if that's the case, then therefore those citizens who object to gay marriage should have that equal right. They should be equal.
They can have the right to go blathering around about whatever they want to talk,
Yeah.
but a marriage
But
should be for
they
everyone.
But should they be denigrated for it? Should they be attacked in the same way that people are saying that they're attacking others?
On an issue of public safety, maybe they should. Just on an issue of, let's say, the rights of people being observed and making sure that it is understood that bigotry, if it was a case, for example, that it was possible to have a mature, chilled out, relaxed discussion about gay marriage, everything would be fine. That has yet to happen, and to be honest with you, I don't see that ever happening until maybe years after gay marriage has properly been instituted.
The point that I want to make, and the problem that I'm having here, is that the people who are out there who are anti-gay marriage are being tarred with the same brush as those out there who are anti-gay, in the same sentence.
And it is absolutely regrettable that that happens. I certainly believe it's regrettable, but I do think that the greater good of society is served by making a clear stand and by saying, okay, we will come out full force, all guns blazing, in favour of this and against this.
Because until you
because
give
there has
the
yet to be
homosexual-
an actual chilled out debate on it.
Until you give the homosexual community the ability to behave normally, like the rest of us, to have marriage, to be treated equally, I mean, they're never going to be treated and seen as equal. How could they? They don't have...
But the problem is that you're talking about the legal side, the rights, the equality there. The fact is that
But
marriage in this argument is a religious issue. And the fact is the opposition comes from believing in their religious beliefs to stop them believing in gay marriage.
The Bible does not say that marriage is a union between a man
No,
and
it
a
doesn't,
woman.
but the
church
church
says
does. But the church is the one that these people believe, because the church's word on this is law, frankly.
Frankly, it is, yeah, from the church perspective. And that is fair enough. But what we really need to look at is the nature of the debate. And
Yeah,
the
I
debate
agree.
and the actual reality of whether or not a real debate can happen on this. And if it can't happen, if the debate is going to be overtaken by extremists, which oftentimes it is, then something has to be done. Some sort of line in the sand must be
The
drawn.
proposition then really is for the press, for the media out there, they need to put forward a balanced and fair perspective, which I
Do you know what?
think is not happening at the moment.
Instead of the current situation, which doesn't have gay marriage, I think we should go above and beyond this. I think we should actually give a coming out grant to people to admit that they are gay. Then you'd have a lot less angsty heterosexual relationships.
Well, hold on a second, Brie, hold on a
Plus,
second.
the world is overpopulated. If we can start getting more gay people to hook up,
Hold
that's only good things.
Well,
A coming out grant is what we need.
Hold on a second, though. A coming out
An
grant.
initiative.
But what, you know, that I suppose, you know, we've got Barry in here. He would say, what about the heterosexuals? Where's our money?
Well, the heterosexuals should be saving up to have their own children and not getting child benefit.
And that brings us full circle back round to marriage and the children again. So look, this debate is going to rumble on and on and on. And it's something that I really do think that the people out there watching this show need to get involved in. They need to get these, you know, they need to write in, they need to go to the website, effecttv.com, they need to check us out on Facebook and really get involved in this debate so we can come back and say, you know what, we listened to you.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to do. We will solve it. This is what Fake TV is about.
We would do a lot better without just our
We
opinions.
certainly hope so. So that is what Fake TV is about. Thank you so much for watching part 2. Tune in for part 3.